then I will say something that is maybe a little controversial, but I think sometimes PLG is BS, or just having this mindset. Because tell me this, are you doing sending emails? Because you sign up and you get one email from the customer representative, one email from the founder, one email with a guide. Then you go to the tool and you have the product demo. So and if you are enterprise, definitely someone from sales is going to call you, right? Are you really PLG? Be honest, like the meme, right? Be honest, because at the end of the day, are you doing email marketing? Yes. Are you posting on social media? Yes. So you need content marketing, email marketing. I think it's very useful to have this mindset that, no one wants to speak with a representative to buy a product that costs $9 because my time is just more expensive to have the meeting than actually get the product.
Hello and good morning and good evening to all of you Thrivecasters. We have a new guest today. His name is Mariano Martene, and today we're going to talk about SaaS metrics and the tactics to drive customer awareness and activation. Mariano and I met, I think, by reading his post on SaaS-HQ.com. He lives in Lisbon, and I got to understand that he is of an Argentinian origin, but he lives in beautiful Lisbon. He's also helping out on SaaStock at the Portugal offices there, and he has been a solopreneur for some time as well. Mariano, welcome to Thrivecast. How are you?
Thank you so much, Guru. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you to all your audience. I'm doing great. Thank you so much.
Mariano, before we start the podcast, at least we delve into the topic, could you do a bit of introduction of yourself and what's your background? How did you get into growth? And especially, you've been posting a lot on PLG as well. So growth, PLG, how did you get started on that?
Sure. So I've been doing marketing for a while, more than 10 years. During that time, I did a lot of stuff. My last job, I was head of growth for a SaaS company, a bootstrap SaaS company. And we went from 1 to 2.2 millions. That was quite a good achievement. Other than that, I have been working and fluctuating my life between being an entrepreneur, work on startups, and do consulting. As you mentioned, I have currently a newsletter that is SaaS-HQ. I share every week growth tactics and little bite-sized case studies like the ones we're going to discuss here. And as you mentioned as well, here in SaaStock, I'm co-city leader. We do meetups. So if you happen to be here in Lisbon, drop a message. I'm try to meet every week, try to meet someone. Yeah, so I'm all about SaaS, basically.
There's something about Lisbon. I've met at least about 4 or 5 folks who are focusing on growth, marketing, and product-led growth, especially in the SaaS world, especially in the B2B SaaS world. So there's probably something in the waters in Lisbon. There's a lot of good growth leaders there.
I would say it's the weather mostly.
Okay, true.
Yeah, there is a nice community here, and yeah, the weather and is good life, and that helps a lot to reduce the stress a little.
So of course, weather is a big factor in growing, right? Weather is
totally.
Growth is directly proportional to weather there. I think the same is the case with California. And there's a lot of good marketing folks in California. There's a lot of growth engineers, growth product managers, all coming up from the Bay Area and the Valley region.
It's a correlation.
Yeah. So let me set the stage on what we're going to talk about. As we discussed, the specific topic is the SaaS metrics and various mechanisms or tactics that we can do to drive customer awareness and activation. Mariano, could you be able to maybe set the stage on what do you mean by awareness? What is acquisition? How do you think about them? And what do you advise to various folks who come and meet you either at SaaS Talks or SaaS-HQ on what do these mean, or at least these terms mean?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing, I use a lot what is called the Pirate metrics, which is a framework, not by me, from Dave McClure. It's basically 5 metrics: acquisition, activation, retention, referral, and revenue. And I believe that you should watch the 5 of them, right? All the time. But you will focus more in one or another depending on the stage that you are right now at the moment, right? So for example, you won't try to do a referral until you have a very good product. Yes, someone that people will actually recommend. You will usually try to, for example, if you already have product market fit, you will try to focus on the retention. Yes, because you will have this problem that acquisition is coming, but you still need to come to make your users come back. So where you stand makes the whole difference. Yes, and we mentioned acquisition activation. That is probably where you want to start, right? And I say start, but you can be there until 1 million easily with just one channel, okay? Acquisition activation is good when you start to focus on these two channels, okay? And let's talk about awareness and acquisition. I see them as just one thing, and I try to keep them, I try to have just a few metrics, okay? Just 1, 2, 3 metrics. And I think there are a few questions to answer. But before jumping on that, we were talking about setting up the stage, right? Where I am. So it's important to know that if you are still starting out and you still don't have product market fit, I think that's the point, right? Where everything breaks and you have two modes. So if you're at the beginning, you are in this kind of experimentation mode. Yes, that means you need to find your channel that is going to work for you. But at the same time, you are iterating and trying to figure out what problem are you solving and how do your products solve this problem. This means you're going to try a lot of stuff until see what it sticks, right? We have this popular phrase where you stick spaghetti into the wall, and when it sticks in the wall, it's because it's ready. So it's the same. But it's very important if you are the founder of the company that you have this mindset towards your team, or if you are doing yourself or you are working with, it doesn't matter if you're working with a marketer, you're going to be in this experimentation phase. Why I'm saying this? Because we're talking about metrics, but this makes a lot of difference because you don't want to optimize. You want to focus on discovery and getting. For this, you need to do a lot of experimentation. Once you nail it, okay, this is it, you can scale it and you can go deep in that channel. So this is important to set up where am I or where do I start?
I think, let me see if I can summarize. I think what you're saying is, depending upon the stage of the company, you should be looking at some of these phases, if we can call it, awareness, acquisition, and activation, slightly differently. If you're an early stage company, making the market aware of your product and getting them to sign up to your product probably becomes a main task. That's an early stage. But as you move up the ladder, you start from an early stage to slightly bigger stages, and at the growth stage, you might start focusing on not just the awareness of the acquisition metrics, but more to the right-hand side of the equation on your, I'm looking at your SaaS-HQ Excel sheet. By the way, for all the listeners, we will have the SaaS-HQ, the Notion document, and the Excel document. It's a beautiful document that Mariano has built. I will put that in the show notes as well. In that document, I see that the right side of the table, you're adding more and more aspects of revenue, making sure of the retention. Could you maybe add a little bit of thoughts on, if you were to be a marketer, if you were to be a founder, how does one think about awareness? Let's say we take an early stage company. They have not yet achieved product market fit, and you latched onto that a little bit. If they have not yet achieved product market fit, what do these roles do, a marketer and a founder? Are they one and the same at that time? I'm just thinking about a very early stage company, and they may not necessarily have all the people hired in. Somebody is doing these jobs of awareness and getting users to sign up. Could you tell a little more about what do these mean? What activities that one would perform, and how can they measure themselves, whether they are doing the right thing or not, to gauge the metrics grow?
So if we are looking at awareness acquisition, basically we want to answer one question, that is how our users find us, okay? The best way to go, I always say this to founders, is see what you have near you and what is easier for you to start. Because you can definitely do this kind of different approach and say, I'm going to be product-led growth or a sales-led growth. And at the beginning, you're going to be founder-led growth. That's for sure. Yeah. So, and that's very important as well, because at the beginning, you need to do it yourself or be very involved and prove that you have something or you have something to sell in a way that your product is sellable, for in a way to speak. Because later, if you don't have that, doing marketing is very tough and doing sales is even harder. Okay, so that's important at the beginning. How users find you. If you are going to do, it's simple. For me, are just 3 metrics to check. And this is the traffic, the conversion rate, and the cost of acquisition. And you want to break it down by marketing channels. And at the beginning, you just want to do one marketing channel and you don't need more. I have seen companies scale until 1 million by just using one channel. You can do 2 if you feel you are ready, but that's a lot. The more channels you have, the more noise and more confusing everything gets. You start by acquisition and you start asking where my users are, where is my customer. You need to really focus on answering these questions. Why is so important to fix this problem for my user? And then start to think, one important thing is you want to see all the time that you are attracting the right kind of users. And this is a problem if you are product-led growth. It's not so easy. You ended up attracting a bunch of users from not all of them qualifies. If you're going to do at the beginning this kind of sales approach, it's easier because usually that means outreach. It could be be LinkedIn outreach, email outreach. So now when I set those metrics like in generic, traffic, conversion, and cost of acquisition. But then since I'm saying, hey, focus in one channel, what you really need to look is the metric of that particular channel, right? So you need to go deep on that. So if you are doing cold email, you are taking this founder-led or sales-led approach, you got to start with the email metrics. So you're going to start with my open rate. Okay, what is my open rate? And you only need to adjust the subject line to improve the open rate. Okay, so I got a good open rate. Now let me work on my messaging. And you're going to change the messaging until you got it. Either good reply rate or CTR, whatever if you are looking to book a meeting or to get a reply and so on. So this is the discovery method that I mentioned. Okay, so this is very important in order and if you're advanced, you want to have what is my cost of acquisition for this channel. And I will always try to recommend, like advice, is to look to your most Pareto, 80-20, your top 20 revenue generators, customers, and always look at them and try to see the funnel for them, because those are the people who is giving you money and revenue. So start from the very beginning to just narrow your view and simplify. Instead of doing more is doing less, I think, and deep.
Less is more.
Exactly.
The new equation. So would these tactics be different if you decide to go product-led versus sales-led? Or have you started seeing a convergence of both product-led and sales-led together now? Especially in the last couple of years or so, product-led has become more and more fashionable to be added. And over time, it has actually gained so much popularity that in my discourse with various SaaS builders, especially the newer age startups, they're looking to add product-led growth as part and parcel of the product itself and making the products better. But they are still doing sales-led. They are still doing some founder-led conversations to get to the first 10 customers. And then they open up the channel. Is that how you see it as well? What are the tactics that you see in terms of awareness or maybe even the conversion of the first 10 customers that you've seen across this particular spectrum?
Yeah, for the first customers, I think you need to go founder-led and you need to focus a lot on getting feedback, getting surveys, talk with your customers. It's more valuable to you go to an event and have a coffee with your prospect and show them the product and get like real reaction. That it doesn't matter that you get the approach when you're ready to, okay, let's get customers. So for the beginning, for the first customer, for me, is my experience so much easier outreach. You just post, if you have a little following, you can do a post on social, you can ask people is willing to usually to give some feedback. Then I would say something that is maybe a little controversial, but I think sometimes PLG is BS, or just having this mindset, because tell me this, are you doing sending emails? Because you sign up and you get one email from the customer representative, one email from the founder, one email with a guide. Then you go to the tool and you have the product demo. So and if you are enterprise, definitely someone from sales is going to call you, right? Are you really PLG? Be honest, like the meme, right? Be honest, because at the end of the day, are you doing email marketing? Yes. Are you posting on social media? Yes. So you need content marketing, email marketing. I think it's very useful to have this mindset that, yeah, no one wants to speak with a representative to buy a product that costs $9 because my time is just more expensive to have the meeting than actually get the product. Okay. And this is super valuable. I would say to the founders, especially nowadays in tech, where everything's changing, don't get married to anything. Just be open-minded. I think it's helpful. And I have learned that many companies, head of growth or marketers have their composition differently. And this will depend a lot of your product. Yes, what are you selling? You will feel a natural tend to go sales. Is this a complex product? Do you need someone to explain it, sales? Or can you go with your product? And also your teams will be or either more analytical or more data based, or you will go sales. So definitely will have different metrics in a way that if you go sales, you're going to have outbound. You want to look the volume of lead that you are generating. How many prospects are you getting per month? How many of them are booking a meeting? And if you go PLG, you want to see how many signups are you getting. It's the same, but of course you're using different channels. So always just go to the channel. My advice with that is really what I said earlier. Stay open. What do you have in mind? Not in mind. What do you have next to you that you can use? What is your network? Because reality, maybe you have one idea. Oh, I will hire this guy and he will do that. But then you hire whatever who is available and who apply to the job and who is in your network, and you have your own constraints. So you need to come up with your own playbook in this way that is going to work only for you and for your company. This is what I
Fantastic.
think.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I think what you're saying is, as a founder, if you're an early stage company, be willing to change your positioning, be willing to change even your homepage or your messaging based on how the market is reacting to your particular product. You may not be able to change your product as fast, but at least the messaging and the applicability of that messaging for that particular audience, you can definitely change. You mentioned a couple of metrics. If you're focusing on product led growth, maybe traffic to your website, your sign up rates, and potentially some ways, a form of calculating cost of acquisition or CAC or cost per customer, if you will. What else do you think at that particular stage, during an awareness and acquisition stage, should you measure? I know you mentioned a little about that there could be a lot of signups from various people that you may not necessarily want in your product, or they may not have any intention to buy. Anything that you can tell about maybe the lead quality or
Exactly.
something?
Yeah, I was going to mention that you need to measure quality as well. And I say that abstract because it will depend a little for whatever you're doing in your company. And we can talk about this in the next question on how to catch or detect if I have a quality lead from the activation moment. But definitely you want to look at the entire until the end. And even if you have history, you want to link your acquisition with the revenue. You have to, because other is just, you don't see the full picture and it changed a lot. So quality, definitely. It's not so easy to put in numbers. I think it's easier if you can do other stuff, segmentation, working with cohorts. That's very interesting. And that's why also I like to keep it simple with the metrics, because when you add cohorts to the analysis, everything becomes a little more complex. And you're using cohorts and you are using segmentations and you are using a lot of time frames and you are looking at the revenue. So it's, again, when you keep it simple, you can actually do these exercises. I think it will lead you to more insightful revenue insights that you could find. So yeah, quality. We can talk about now in the activation with that.
Yeah.
If you want to.
So you mentioned that you may not necessarily be aware of what your lead quality would be during your acquisition stage, unless until those leads have gone from acquisition to activation to conversion. That's when you have made up your mind about the lead quality. Is that right? Is that how you would rather put it?
May or not maybe, depend on your channel. I'll give you a very example. So to not speak so abstract, I'm doing, for example, some ads. That ads is a list of prospects that I handpick. So I know 100% of that list is in my target. So is this quality? It's just a very simple example. So you can go, it's tricky if you're doing SEO, for example, then you have the intent and you have some factors to try to see if this is the right kind of users you're attracting. So the quality in that way it's important, I think.
Yeah, could you maybe take an example of some of your advising clients that you advise, or any other places that you have seen where you have tons and tons of signups coming in? You may not necessarily know which ones of them are good or not. And then they go through these phases.
I will tell you one example that happened in a company I work. We have a SaaS that was horizontal, meaning we were serving a lot of niche and different kind of companies. Like it could be a museum, but it could be alarm company, it could be a tech company, because it was a communication platform. So you can understand, like an email, they have if you can focus or not. So for us, it was, so what is quality? We have this internal debate of what the customers that generate most revenue for us. So we needed to really do this qualification at the beginning to and everything, because if I'm serving, I don't know, you will read tech companies. They have tech companies, for example, we did some of the services was SMS. Okay. One SMS that all companies do, B2B, is two-step authentication. Yeah. When you log in, you get a code. Do we want to target the company, or we want to target, I don't know, the restaurants or the art galleries? And everything changed, okay? Because your communication changed, your product changed, what are you saying, what the problem you're solving changed. I think the real challenge is align everything, yes, until you're figuring out what, because you don't know. I think it's wise to accept that you won't know and you will be lost for a while and you just need to test. It's very hard it will come, I think, if you come with a lot of experience and you already know and you have, okay, I know this is going to work or not. Otherwise, you need to test and see. The quality has qualification. It's the same word, the same rule, right? Qualify for me, you need to be very clear on who is your target. Yes. More easy to do when you are sales-led growth. Not so easy when you are product-led growth. Also, I see a lot of PLG companies, since they can release a lot of features and all that, they end up with these all-in-one tools. Yes, but when you read all-in-one tool, you already almost you have a problem because they don't know what they're doing, basically. I'm sorry if someone has this right now in their homepage, but this is true. And eventually you see the all-in-one tools right now, but they started with small and they were adding more and more until they get to the market. So you cannot start there. You need to find the quality is the product. You come back to the basics. What problem are you solving? For whom? Why are you better than the others? So that's why I stick with the basics, because this is the best business that I have seen in my life are the most unique. Yes, that you cannot copy because they're doing something that no one is doing. When you need, not easy to find that.
Yeah. So what you're saying is follow the customer journey, and until they get to convert, especially in the PLG world, because there are so many signups that might happen. Not all of them, in fact, most of them will not convert. So follow the customer journey and figure out what's your lead quality until you have figured out what it takes for them to be converted. I think in general, that looks like that's what you're saying. Let's move to the next topic. Let's say there's an awareness in the market. You started to have a lot more signups, and now you have to get to activate these users. You mentioned one example where if you have some friction like two-factor authentication, a lot of things will change. Maybe could you explain a little bit of what do you mean by activation and what are the tactics that you have seen out there, maybe even common metrics for activation as well?
Yes. So activation is basically this first experience that the user will have with your tool. It's not when the user sign up. Usually when we talk about activation, we try to tie it with this aha moment. Yes, this eureka. This happens when you realize that the tool has immense value for you. Easier to see when, for example, B2C, the first time you got into Netflix or Spotify, whatever. You have all these, the first time all these movies, just one there. So immense value. And you can do the B2B example. I remember, for example, Miro, I don't know. The idea of see the cursor of your colleagues. Yes, it's this collaborative experience. That is a aha moment. Okay. You immediately say, okay, this is something different. This is what this tool has to me. And it changes, and you have many of these moments. And you need to figure it out. What is your moment? So your activation is how do you lead your user to get this moment as fast as you can, because there is another metric that is called time to value. Yes, there is how does it take me to get to that value? Yes, and you don't have one. You may or may not have one key moment, but you have many aha moments where you are going to deliver value through your product. Yeah, you deliver values not one time, in phases and many times. So activation is about that. Tactics, there are a lot of tactics to check here. So again, let's talk about measuring first. You need to measure these two things. Time to value, aha moment, you define it. Again, use the same segmentation that before, per marketing channel, and if you can, your top customers, because you want to make sure you're activating the right customers, okay? If you don't do this, you're going to see, oh, look at that, my activation is going up, but maybe you're activating the wrong users. And that is going to cascade until your revenue. Okay, many tactics. So you got to think on this. It helps a lot. It doesn't matter if you are sales, have your, what we call job to be done. Very well done. So basically this is other companies or people will hire your product to do a task. Yes. So you want to figure out what is the task and you have to do it perfectly. So that helps a lot because you map the personas. And if you know what they are looking for, you can help them, give them faster. Also, you can this is the only time. So onboarding is the number one thing to look here. Okay. And you don't want to be too long in a way that no one completes onboarding. But also this is the only time, or I think your best time to ask a few questions and profile your customer, because now is when he's willing to do it. So you definitely want to ask what is the role, what is trying to achieve. There are many companies doing this. Just 3 or 4 questions, no more. So you get that. And if it's possible, you should bring a different experience based on those answers. Okay. So if I'm telling you I'm a developer and I'm here to connect my API, don't send me to the content marketing, send me to the API key, please. And just save me time. Okay. It's just as simple as that, and remove everything that is noise for my use case and show me what I want. You can go very far from this with this. I met to these SaaStock events one guy that he removed the entire sign up process and put the product as homepage. So it messed up all his metrics, but at the end, like he got 10x signups. Okay, because you go to the value. No time to lose. I'm using the product. Hello. Then there you can do more. For example, use hints or tell the user, You can use in product, like product tours or such, but also you can use templates and pre-fill the information. Okay. So if again, I'm a developer, give me the API key and give me, I don't know, the basic documentation. I'm a content marketer, depends the tool, no? But I'm Notion, give me a checklist for a content marketing, give me a schedule, show me how I can use it for my purpose. That is things, because the blank canvas is terrifying for a user. They don't know what to do. Even if they have to remove later, that's stuff you can do. Good?
I'm summarizing a couple of things that you mentioned. Sorry not to interrupt your thoughts there, but I think you mentioned that to get to right activation, getting to the value as fast as possible is important. And for that, as a product owner or a product PM in the team, you might have to figure out what's the GTBD of the user, understand your user, understand the task that needs to be done. So design your product to especially make that. So you're pivoting, you're indexing your product to that specific persona, that specific user, and the task that he's there to perform. And you mentioned about a couple of tactics around it. Hey, you can go directly to the home page, and that itself is an app rather than you have a marketing website, and from there you take them. The next thing that you mentioned about the aha moment, I think as you defined it, you said that's a moment where you're letting the end user experience the value as fast as possible within your product. And there is something unique about it. So the examples that you mentioned about are the collaborative aspects, that somebody seeing your friend's cursor on the same screen or being able to do something very uniquely. The third thing that you mentioned about is once you have the JTBD done, once you have figured out what the aha moment, you start tracking how long it takes for them to get to that, right? And you mentioned a couple of things like there are some metrics around it. So would love to understand what are the typical things that you have seen to get to that activation. So could you touch upon what do you mean by activation rates and how do you measure them?
So for measure, you can use tools. You need to get data, and you can use tools. I don't know. I don't want to mention. Like, I don't know if you can mention tools or not here, like Hotjar, Microsoft Clarity. So it's basically heat maps tools. You want to see analytics on your product analytics, not web analytics. Product analytics. But it's basically how they behave. And you need to see the recordings. And sometimes it's just as boring as watching one user. And you can see the user, like the cursor, and got frustrated. And when they get a rage, they do like that. You see the frustrations. But you need to do this. It's not easy. Actually, be very scientific approach. Yes. Because at the end, you're mixing data with this number or milestones or actions or behaviors. And depends on what you can get with your product analytics without dying in the process. So you need to negotiate there. What is easy for you to measure? Maybe you just need to measure particular events, and that's all.
Yeah, I think that's, so I'm summarizing it here. So heat maps for you to understand what the user is doing with your app. You need to enable product analytics, not just the traffic analysis of your marketing website. And the third thing that you mentioned is about experience, what the end user is experiencing, especially the cursor movements and the frustrations. That's where you can find a lot more clarity in that. So I think those are probably the three ways to measure on your activation. Last question to you, Mariano. On these three areas, awareness, acquisition, and activation, where do you see most SaaS companies struggle, especially in the early days?
In the early days, I think acquisition, but it shouldn't be. I think we all, not people, try to do everything at the same time because we don't have time, to be honest. We have a little time to validate ourselves. Yes, I see a lot of people, they want to jump already, set up a channel and grow, but there is a process to figure it out. So this is where, especially with first time founders on early stage companies, this is more a struggle for them. I do.
Yeah. So do you advise them not to do everything at once?
That would be a good advice, right? Yeah, you need to work with your marketer, or if you're doing it yourself, at the end it's more like a system. Figure out a system and a process that's something you get once. I don't know if I can explain. My goal is to get fit. Yes, and it's not just hitting the gym. I need to first hit the gym consistently with a routine. I need to find what works for me. That depends. Each person is different. Some go gym, some do martial arts, some go to run. So you got exercise, then you got nutrition. Then nutrition is a whole world for each person. Some is vegan, some no bread. So you got nutrition, you got sleep and stress management. So it will get to my goal. You want to get to a goal. You want to get 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. to get to that goal, you will need to figure out that systems in your life. And for your company, it's the same. For me, each of these are like a system. And you're going to first to work on your acquisition system and work in one channel until you got it. Okay, I got it. Now let's work on activation. And it's like that. And while you're working on something, other things will break because it's very similar to life. You keep it all. It's very hard. So it's a process, and you're better seeing this as a process to and have it that not as a goal by itself. Okay, so you're building a system, a process. I think it's better mindset to go with this.
That's a beautiful way to maybe even close the conversation. So you took an example of going and working out in the gym. You will call that's the process that you need to follow. And then there's the aha moment that you have either lost weight or you're fit or you've achieved some goals. Super. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mariano. And I learned a lot, and I hope Thrivecasters have learned as well. We will have the show notes and the links to the Notion document, the Excel documents that you have, as well as any other commentary that we will work with you offline as well. Again, appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you so much for having me. It has been a pleasure. I wish you a great day.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you.